be good.
Yes, just changing my settings back there. So we're back, and it looks like Atticus has joined us.
Good evening.
Good evening also.
Good evening.
Alrighty then.
It was
So
sounding so,
Will-
that was sounding so BBC until him, wasn't it?
So I've been watching a bit of Jim Carrey, that Ace Ventura too much lately.
No, I'm glad of it, really I am.
Alrighty then.
So Bashy, while we were discussing, we were doing a little change up in subject. We were going to talk about the economic conditions in Germany and Europe and so on, and you were going to start us off possibly? How about that?
Yeah, okay, good. Thank you. So, the first thing, I don't know whether I should make a general introduction or whether we should go straight to the point. The situation in Germany right now, or Germany and Europe, and how Germany is perceived, or how the euro is perceived, is in general that before a few months ago we had a situation where Sarkozy and Merkel was building they formed a kind of pair, and they were dancing to certain tunes, and they were actually playing. They were the main players in the financial theater in Europe, and it was Merkel dominating the scene with her austerity pact, which means that everybody has to save money and stick to the agreed terms and so on. I mean, typical German, how to say, attitudes were promoted by her because, as she's a populist, these things are very well accepted by the German population. And Sarkozy was playing with her together, and this situation created, of course, a lot of hardship for how to say, for states which were not fiscally disciplined, or how you want to say it, as it was perceived by this German-French coalition. And this situation has changed now because of two developments. Number one, we have a vote, an election coming up in Greece, a re-election. And second, we had an election in France, and in both elections there was a huge shift occurring. In Greece we have now a party which is most likely coming into power, which is opposed to any austerity measures, and they publicly say that they are not going to honor whatever has been agreed to in respect of saving money, paying back money which has been lended, and so on. And of course this is creating a lot of nervosity in the financial markets. And the leader of that party, he's quite young actually, he was in the last days flying over Europe, especially to France and to Berlin also. And he went to France to meet the new elected President Hollande, which also publicly stated that he is not a friend of austerity measures, but he thinks that growth signals have to be inserted to make sure that prosperity comes back and money can be paid. This scheme that you try to pay back money by borrowing more money to make more money, and the avalanche is only just getting bigger, in my opinion. That's my personal one. And so, of course, the leader of this Greek party was immediately targeting Hollande, and it seems that he has found support now from not only Hollande but also from other parties. Let's say, for example, Monti in Italy also mentioned something in the recent days. So Merkel's position in respect of austerity is now weakened internationally, and at the same time her position is also weakened internally in Germany, because she had some bad local poll and election results, and the opposition is coming back, and the opposition is blowing into the horn of growth mechanisms to be implemented. And so this is, how to say, the beginning of a change which is going to happen, and it looks like it's going to be a very, very big change. And this is just like an introduction into going into specifics of these subjects. Hello, am I still there?
Yes, I can still hear you.
Okay.
Yes, I can too.
Me too.
So, okay, so I just wanted to make sure, because before the connection was so bad. So right now Merkel is caught between a hard bed and and a rock, so more or less, because her strategy seems to be now to go to a so-called European Redemption Pact, which is called Fiscal Pact, which has some crazy ideas actually, which are completely out of a science fiction book. And because she wants to avoid at all costs the euro bonds, because she is not convinced that euro bonds are going to be the solution for this new financial crisis, and the euro bonds will more or less have a negative impact on any financial austerity which individual states have to implement, because Eurobonds will, socialize any debts. I mean, one state can make the debt, and another state has to pay back. So, and this is actually what she's opposing against completely, and that is why she is coming up with this Fiscal Pact, which is which is already very bad, and she tries to promote it here in Germany, and to use this to gather support from here in Germany to go into the international European theater with a backing from the opposition leaders here in Germany. And this is why she's going for the Fiscal Pact. And there's one condition in the Fiscal Pact which is one of the key points. It's this redemption pact is a 2.3 trillion sized pact, which is financed through the gold reserves of two states, which is the Italian and the German states. So it means whoever makes a debt, let's say Portugal decides to spend 1 billion on something and they can't finance it, they can borrow money, and that borrowed money is then guaranteed by German and Italian gold, which is, I think, quite beneficial, quite a good deal for the Portuguese people at that or politicians at that moment. But quite can have a negative impact on Italian or German gold possessions. So when I read that one, I remember that I heard that there is a plan of getting back to the gold standard, and that this gold standard will be only implemented after all or most of the gold has been captured in one way or the other in a system, so that the individual states are more or less not having these gold anymore, so that it is gone into different hands. And my question now to Stephen is, what can he say in that respect?
Well, yeah, you're completely correct about a gold standard. I don't know if you remember some time ago I told you about the compulsory purchase won't look like a compulsory purchase. The price will be so good that they'll mop it all up, and that's the way it's going to be done. There were some figures banded about how much it would be on the markets. They aren't really as cast iron as they were, so I won't quote those now. But yes, that's exactly what's going to happen. If you're a private individual, you will not be allowed to own gold, period. You have to be a commercial concern, i.e. using it for manufacturing or something like that, circuit boards, whatever. Or jewellery manufacturer, if that is still allowed at that point. I should think it will be. Or you're dealing against currency, because they're going to try and guarantee all currency back against gold, because it's all about to go pop.
But is it not like this, that right now they are playing with monopoly money, which they are printing out of thin air, and with this money they are getting the right to own the physical gold, and then they say, okay, the monopoly money is not anymore the money which is counting what is the real thing. The real thing is now gold or gold-backed currency. Is that not a big scheme?
Yes, exactly. Sorry, I thought I was quite plain. Let me explain it. Okay, yeah. Everything that's being done now, including the stock market, bonds and everything, is completely in the shitter. It is trash, and it has been since 2006, more or less. Everyone's been... Picture loads of men in suits on trays, trying to grab money, sliding down a hill of snow to a canal at the bottom. That's been the financial market since 2006. Everyone just grabbing some and saying, I'll go and buy it. That's paper money for you in a nutshell. The lot. Anything made of paper. Doesn't matter. Bonds, the lot. Contracts, anything that's worth money that's made of paper is just not worth anything. It's something to light a fire with. Everything that's going to be worth anything will be minted gold, or to the value of that minted gold, bonded note after that. So basically, yes, they're going to buy all the gold with the worthless money and give you loads of it for it, and you're going to sell it all because, God, I'm getting 3,800 or whatever, and I'm going to buy it that. I'm going to sell it that, rather. You run away with your money, and then everything changes, and the economy goes absolutely, totally pear-shaped. Everyone sees the crash happen, and paper money and contracts and business is all going to change in such a massive way. It's basically all going to be a forefront, up front, no more obligation in business. So therefore, they'll have all the gold, and we'll all have nothing, and going to be starting again, more or less, or with the handout that they start you with, depending on your previous stature, because that's what's going to happen. They're going to sum up how much money you've got of the paper type and say, and there's your piece of gold for you, that's what it's worth. And depending on how much of it you've got, you will get a little bit more than most. But basically, they're going to down tier everybody while stepping up 10 rungs themselves in one go. And all ills afterwards, to appease everybody, are going to be blamed on the paper money market system and how bad it was. There'll be all sorts of editorial and satire all aimed at the bankers and what they did to us. They'll be the new Nazis.
Yeah, so it's a big game going on. I mean, they will more or less they are trying to trash the Federal Reserve out. It's for me it's like, imagine you are sitting in a house which is not belonging to you, and you're playing with 4 or 5 people, and one of them is the owner of the house, and you're playing monopoly money, and then you are saying, okay, you have run out of the monopoly money, but now maybe you can for $100 of monopoly money you can buy this chair, and then we play again, and in this way you buy the complete house, and when the house has been bought, you have the right on the house. Then you say, okay, now we will finish this game of monopoly because I'm tired of that one. This money is not worth anymore. And you will blame somebody else, but you are still then the owner of the house. I mean, come on, what's
massive
going on?
Manipulation, because the basic market monetary system that was set in place doesn't work anymore because it's eaten itself, and it always would, because it was based on constant attainment. It was the whole concept is based on more. Forget about greed and all the words that people attach all words, because they get, what people do is when they look at the business market, they bring their heart with them, and that is just total nonsense. It's like bringing a knife to a gunfight. It's a stupid thing to do. If you're going to look at finances, look at logic. because for the last 6 or 7 years, computers have been deciding what we do with our money anyway. They don't pay billions for a computer system and then ignore the calculation that comes out at the end. So in actual reality, we have been being told what to do with our money by computer-based software for 6 or 7 years. So it's based on logic. So why bring your heart to that? There is no heart to it. It's been based on more profit, gain. Remember the video with Big Al Bartlett and so on? It's all based on more. You cannot keep sustained growth. And the game, to me, it's funny, if you look at the washing powder market, how marketing agents market washing powders and floor cleaners, what they'll do, it's always new, and it's always improved, and it's always better, and they've always got a new ingredient. And this is a different bottle, and you can spray it this way, and this one you get a new mop with. This is what they've been doing with the financial markets. They're both marketing jobs, and that's what they've been doing. They've marketed the financial markets in the same way. This is new. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And slowly but surely, everybody's realising that we're on a ball, and it's got an atmosphere. Where the fuck does the money go when there's a recession? Where does it go? Down the hole? No. Someone's got it. Everyone knows. Every man in the street knows that if you've got all the money, you've got all the power, and you're at the top, and that's what they're doing. They're manipulating the whole thing. There's no two ways about if it might be a game. It is a game, and anyone in the financial market knows exactly what's been going on since 2006. And loads of people have been trying to say something, and as soon as they say something, they are ridiculed out of anything, the same way scientists are about any new breakthrough, same way Mr. Sheen was. If he went to a dinner party and overheard and he started talking the wrong way, his career's trashed. And this is how it works all the way down the line. But we all know this. Everyone in this community knows it. Everyone knows how it works. I'm interested to see what people think could be done about it, don't you? I mean, let's talk about the solutions to that. So they crash the markets, got all the gold, and then give you your one piece and pat you on the bum and scurry you out into the world again. What do we do then?
Let me have one question before that one. Now, if they're introducing the new currency, which is gold-backed, the old one was an interest-bearing currency. It means, as you said, it's always the system is based on growth, which cannot be extended to infinity. So my question now, if they introduce the new currency, which is gold-backed, is this also an interest-bearing currency, or is it without interest?
No, interest and the banking community will be the hex. That will be the sin. So it will all be called something different, and it'd be like value added tax. So rather than you pay interest on a loan, you will pay a fee, a one fixed fee. But you've got to understand we'll have been through a massive financial upheaval because of this. There is going to be lots of hassle in every walk of life. As you can imagine, I mean, there already is. It's already started. Everyone knows that. So it's going to, that's going to step up. And it's just, I mean, think of it as a boiling pot. We're all watching it, but it's going to boil. We know it is. But we're all looking at each other and looking at the pot, and we're waiting for it to boil. And it seems like forever. We know it's going to. And that's where everybody is right now, all looking at that pot. Everybody who's got a clue. Wondering, when does it actually boil over? So we know there's going to be a lot of upheaval. So you're going to be very glad of your bit of gold. And you'll be very glad at the point that all major finances have been taken out of. They're not an option for you anymore. You're not going to own a house. You're not going to own enough land. There's not enough land to go round. Everything's going to have to be organised again, properly. But it's going to be done their way. Everything will be presented as exactly what you want. Well, you want us to sort the land. You want to be able to walk everywhere. No one own the land. These big landowners, who the fuck do they are? So what they'll do is they'll publicly buy all the land. So anyone go, yay, we walk where we want. But that won't be how it will be, will it? Then it will be farmland with fence around it, or whatever they want it to be. So the same old, but so the position you'll be in won't be owning your house or wanting to get into finances or being a private dealer. All that will be gone. What there will be people that do business, a tier of people that do business, and us in the food chain afterwards somewhere. And then again up the echelons. But the gap between the elite and the business world is going to become absolutely it's going to become like the Grand Canyon. Whereas at the moment, it's a bit like the Watford Gap.
So it means the plan is to, in the end, nobody is allowed to have gold, and there will be only a small piece of gold, and there will be a new currency, and we will start from zero more or less. This is what I get out from there. Correct?
Let me tell you exactly how they're going to bring and what they're going to do. Markets are going to crash here and there. So certain countries are not going to be dealt with because their money's no good. So and that's how it's going to be rolled out. That's going to happen more and more. So everyone's going to cry and say, well, look, this doesn't work. There is no paper money. You just keep going, So they're going to want to guarantor. So they're going to go back to the system of guaranteeing that I bet, on a £20 note, it says, I promise to pay the bearer the value of this in gold. And you're supposed to be able to go to the Bank of England and give them the note, and they're supposed to give you that weight in gold. That's no longer the case. They changed it a little while ago. But up until fairly recently, you could actually demand to do that. So that's what they're going to take it back to, but with the markets, because if you think of countries as individuals, they're going bankrupt. So no one will do business with them. They won't trust an IOU note, the money anymore. So what's going to happen? They're going to bring a world system of minting gold. So raw gold will not... If you possess raw gold, you'll be in the slammer before you know it. Every piece of gold that's mined is going to be governed, and it's going to be minted as soon as it can be. So if you're in possession of raw gold, you're either in manufacturing or you're a criminal and you're in prison. So that's how it's going to be brought in. You'll want the stability.
Okay. So I have to be a gold miner or a gold mine owner to beat that system. that would be the entrance fee ticket to the elite.
Well, I know someone that owns a gold mine, and he's very nervous at the moment about what's going to happen and when it's going to get snatched from his hands.
Okay.
So who's going to own all the gold mines? Because, I'm sorry, but about a couple months ago, I had taken note that I'm living here in North Carolina, down in South Carolina, and now this gold has been here all along for eons. Everybody's known there's a vein of gold, huge, right in the Appalachian Mountains. And about the last 6 months, I suppose, there's a company out of Canada, which I find interesting, that has bought up land and a mine in South Carolina, which is supposed to be very rich in gold. Now that gold has been sitting there for a long, long time. Now all of a sudden they're very interested in it. But I find it quite interesting, number one, that it's owned by a company in Canada, and that what you just said, the people that own gold mines are going to be very nervous.
Yeah, good place to be. But the way you got to think of it is, they've had 2 or 3 attempts already, and they've gone under the wire, and people haven't noticed. So let's reveal those. You've got global warming and the big storm that went on. Sorry for the pun. The big storm that went on around that. So you've got that, and now we're talking about food, and then we're going to talk about population growth and general growth and the sustainability of the planet with this and so on. So that's the banner things get brought in there, and people are going to cry out for this to be, we are crying out for this to be addressed. Okay, that's right, isn't it? We're all saying that this shit needs to be addressed, aren't we? Yes or no?
Yep.
Right, so the government are going to stand up, let's just call them the government, are going to stand up and they're going to say, right, you want us to deal with it, we've got the powers to do so. And everyone will run along and tick the box. When the box is ticked, they will own the land. Forget about what's in the land, what's on the land or hovering over the land. The government control it. So there is no more free gold, no more free minerals, because they're managing for us to manage industry. You see, they've tried a few times already. But what's really going to do it is when there's a financial and oil crisis. That will always work. But it's a very wretched crisis. It's one of the worst. Any energy crisis is bad. So they tried to slide it in with a general consciousness scandal of what we're doing to this planet, and it didn't quite pull off. So they really are, and they've tried to get us to be at war with each other. And the wars that they've tried to dress up and start haven't really took hold. Everyone's like, well, no, we don't really want to fight because we know we could just argue. And everyone kind of realises that now, and everyone's got nuclear weapons, so it's just a bit pointless anyway. So everyone's like scratching their head and saying, well, and I'm talking about everybody, the world, the populace. They're all saying the same thing, more or less. Well, that don't make sense. So that now it's got to be the oil financial crisis, as painful as it's going to be. But it will make everybody obey. Because what they're going to bring it in under is control for the better. Because if you want utopia, you need a level of control. And everybody's got to accept that. And that's where they'll bring it in. All the small print. I know of about 30 odd laws that have been passed in the last 3 years that have absolutely tied the internet up. And about 20 of them are nothing to do with the internet. That's how stealthy they are. They'll bring them in by bringing a group of legalities in. And it's already being done. Anyone that hasn't prepared for that is going to find themselves in real deep shit on the internet if they say anything that it really isn't what the norm wants. There isn't going to be a free media unless you position yourself properly. And this is all going to be done on the financial. And the gold is just another funnel to send you down, just like food is. Light a few bonfires and people get scared.
Hi, Steve. I just wanted to change the subject a second. You mentioned something on the thread. Forgot what the thread was, but you mentioned something about something being put in space, about the helisphere, and I didn't really hear any much more about it. Do you know any more about that? Because you just kind of mentioned it very briefly.
Well, if you look on the Pause for Tea thread, I believe there's some videos, I don't know if I put them up or someone else put them up, to do with a couple of space projects that actually have been sent out spinning around to measure the heliosphere, and all of what I've said is generally on there, more or less. But what it boils down to is where we are and where we're going at the moment, energetically, is lower. It's a tone, a lower tone. Whereas we're usually in a fluctuation of peaks, we're going for quite a low tone for a long time, a couple of years. So lots of things are going to be less energetic, everything really. I don't know if you've noticed, because it's probably within the last sort of 25 days it's happened. And if there's any scientists out there that are into that sort of thing, they'll put up something that will show you where it's floating through and why and all the rest of it, because it's all scientifically backed up. But I mean, it seems pretty sensible and pretty straightforward to think that if the whole thing we float through, we go into a softer, less energetic place, that basically everything that we are that's based on energy is going to turn down. So it's pretty straightforward stuff, isn't it, really? But yeah, that's the case. We're in a part of space that is a lower field. They've known about all this sort of thing and calculated all this sort of thing and adjudicated what is, they're players, and that's what they've done.
Yeah, because I noticed it. Well, it was a few days before that you actually posted that I was noticing a really kind of down energy type of thing. Even though everything was going good with us, nothing to complain about. Just we felt that kind of down energy. And then when you mentioned it, it was just like, whoa, that kind of nailed it, But yeah, I kind of felt it. But like you said, it's not like massive. Everyone's depressed and crying, right? So it's just you feel that vibe. You could feel it. Like it was like just a really, I don't know, like a bad smell, but it was just there.
Well, do you know what?
It just lingered.
Do you know what? I wouldn't even say depression for me. I would say for me, I'll tell you what it was like. Literally, it really was. It felt to me like I'm in a big house, in a big party, in the daytime, on a sunny day, say a barbecue or something, or a pool party or something like that, and there's music blaring, and I've walked out of the house and down past the pool, on the grass, and as I'm getting further away from the house, everything's turning down, and then I stand still. That's what it feels like to me. So I haven't lost anything, and I'm not really averse to it being there. It's actually quite welcome in some ways, because it's that energetic place we've been going through, the 80s and the 90s, and what's happened is what's jazzed everybody up and got us going. And it's nice to be jazzed up. That's what cocaine's about. That's why it's so popular. But it's the downside of it that's not. But this is a natural thing, so it's not anything like that. Where we were jazzed about and we were skipping up and down because of the energy levels and so on, and I'm sure there's probably records backwards where we've been that prove that. We're now going through a much lower volume, lower tone, serene time, and that's how I would describe it. But the insidious among us are going to take advantage of us all sitting down and becoming mellow and agreeable. They're going to take advantage of it. And everyone's going to be agreeable, and they're going to do it with really nice voices, really lovely smiles, and great rhetoric, calmly and nicely. And you're all going to sign because it's for the planet, it's for Mother, for Gaia. You'll be right up the front, because they're slicker than Rick, I'll tell you.
He said that so eloquently.
He did, didn't he? And I just got something to add to that too. I've been noticing that a lot of this New Age movement is to put you in a lull situation, to put you to sleep, to make you non-observant of these kind of things. I don't know any other way to explain it, but I know exactly what you're saying, Atticus, and I've seen that. But I saw it prior to this actually happening. I've been seeing it for a while, and I'm like, why do you people want to put yourselves to sleep? You know, you want to be aware and awake, and instead, these things that are supposed to make you aware and awake are actually putting you to sleep.
Well, it's clever because there's tiers of this, isn't there? You know, someone that's apathetic is one thing, you know, but someone that's inquisitive will be dealt with in a different way. That inquisitiveness will be satisfied, but it will be satisfied conducively to their plans. You know, so and a general downturn is a downturn in everyone's senses. So it's a thing to take advantage of, and the calmness of it, that's a thing to take advantage of. Sedate the crowd. This is the natural sedation for all of us. They are not really that affected by it, I don't think, for varying reasons. But yeah, they will take advantage of it. It's a downturn, it's a calming, and that's what's going to happen. And anyone that talks about anything to do with it that isn't actually what it is will find themselves popularised and funded in varying ways, usually the donation button, because it's so easy. The thing about the donation button is that people don't actually realise when you're looking at the world of business and finance, without your heart, the donation button, any manipulator wants sites with donation buttons on them. I would like, if I was a manipulator, every site by law to have a donation button on it. Because anything they're doing, or any subject on there that I like, I can just keep hitting the button. And eventually, anyone that latches on with them and they get a donate button on their site, I can hit that button. Do you see what I'm doing? And that's why they want it like that. And people are just not really looking at it clearly. If you want to sort something out, you've got to get together equally. So everybody's got the same right and function equally. No one can wade in with big boots because that's how they do it.
Sedation. That was a good word, sedation.
You know, the climate's going to get a bit warmer. I mean, really, think about it. Actually, just think about it basically and logically. People are more aware. They're not buying the war game no more. They're not buying the terrorist thing anymore. The internet has connected them too much. The monster they created is biting them on the foot as we speak. They've got control of that. They've set new laws in place for it. You know, there's gonna, you know, they're gonna own the food. They're gonna scare you with the food by having a few shortages. They're gonna scare you with the oil by having a few shortages. By whatever means they use, political, it doesn't matter. Just light a few bonfires around you, and then show you the nice green field. And it's very, very, you know, alluring, isn't it? So yeah, I could understand, especially if it's presented in the right way, and the bloke at the door has got the right pyjamas on. You know, they want things to be good. You don't want it to be bad, do you? If you've got a door on the left that's on fire with hand grenade spent on the side of it and barbed wire hanging out of it, or a door there with flowers and you know, little birds flying around it, you're going to run through the door with the birds and the flowers. You know, so. But the thing is, supposing the way the barbed wire way was actually a bit rough for a few miles, but that was the way you meant to go. You see, this is how it's done. It's all smoke and mirrors, as they say. And it really is. It really is. It's marketing. we are the internet world, and they're going to grid that and get control of that so they can massage the energy that's there around the globe to where it's needed. And by that I mean economy, political, emotional control via the media through handheld devices, which everybody will have, which leads us nice onto something that's going to be involved in that later.
So what happens to these people that go through the wrong door? What do you think happens to them?
I should think, if you're going to be realistic about it, there's no point. Look, it's husbandry, isn't it? Imagine a farm, it's animal husbandry, isn't it? There's no point being cruel or bad to the animals you've got, because they're not going to suffer. They're going to suffer. They're not going to be as good a product by the other end. Any good farmer knows that to a certain level, I mean, they're still cruel to them, but to a certain level, they've got to look after their stock. So I would say for the people that agree to be stock, until the hammer comes, it will probably be pretty good.
Will I start getting like gold nuggets in my hat instead of cash then?
No nuggets. If you got a nugget, you'd be arrested, and they want to find the geezer that threw it.
Yeah, this gold stuff is quite interesting. It's quite I was going to say something about what someone else says about the Templars and Fort Knox and where all the gold is disappearing and stuff. I think you've just nailed what's happening there.
Well, there's all sorts of deals going on. What's happening is what people don't realise is there's all sorts of legislation in place for business and all that, right? But when it comes down to it, you've got a load of blokes in a room, and one of them's pockets are now empty, and he should be paying. Now, what do you think happens at that point? Do you think legislation is where they go? Or do you think someone just pushes everybody out of the way and goes for the cash? So when a deal goes wrong in the markets and a business goes down, not a big business, maybe a subsidiary or something, that means there's going to be an avalanche in the future because of a supply is missing for a bigger product. And everyone says sod the legislation and go straight for the currency. So if you put that onto a cellular, well, see, borders and countries don't mean much to me, but if you put that onto a country level, and a deal with an American company that's gone bad, you've got business all standing together and going and taking to the value of. So if you can start manipulating the businesses to go bad, you can actually force the gold out of places by exterior pressure. But the thing about gold is, there's a lot more to it. People say, all that glitters isn't gold, and there's more to gold than meets the eye, and so on. Well, there is. There actually is more to gold than meets the eye. The allure and all the rest of it that people talk about. And some people pick a piece of gold up and say, And if you've got a bit of gold on your hand or as jewellery or whatever, you'll look at it and go, yeah, it's nice. If you see raw gold in a seam before it's been treated, and you rub it and see it on your fingers, you'll realise there's much more to it than meets the eye. And I know there's a certain gentleman in this group right now that knows what I'm talking about. And it's rare and cannot be made, so it will always end up being a precious thing to deal in. This has given it was almost put there by nature, you could say, because in its rarity it always keeps its value, because not everyone has it. So when it's cubed up into bits and people share it, it saves carrying around 60 sheep. You can put one piece of gold in your pocket that's worth 60 sheep. And it's a natural thing. And if it's used properly and it isn't used in the perverse way it's been used, on an energetic level, as it changes hands peacefully. And that's very important. Remember I said that, because gold's the secret. And I plan to do something in the markets with gold. And I'm going to write basically a very simple, straightforward, say 200-300 word explanation of what I want to do with a PLC company and float it on the market for for people to own that buys gold and takes the gold out of the market and doesn't do anything with it, just stores it. And of course, if they cash in their shares, they get that actual gold back. They can go to a place or get it delivered to them, the real stuff.
Well,
Because it
how
still
can they do that?
still comes out the market, see?
Oh, okay.
There
And
are
this is
companies
before-
existing. There is, for example, Gold Wheaton, for example. This is one of the gold stock companies which are having that type of business model.
Well, if you look at it a bit closely, yes, it is that type of business model. But if you actually look at it closely, it's business to business, really. And that's another deal. I'm literally talking about something A, B, C. Totally naked for what it is and what it's attempting to do. Because we need to take the gold out of the market, and then the market will, before they start minting it. So that if we've got that gold at that point, they're going to, it's going to, well, basically anyone that's involved in that is going to be a pain in the arse if they don't agree. And they're at least going to keep something for the other side. But it'll all flow out. I'm not asking for favours off anybody. I just mention it out of conversation.
Okay, let me ask one question. You see now, if they are planning to confiscate more or less all the gold and go back to the gold standard, how is the current trend in America? There's
Can anyone else hear him?
No.
No, I think we
he's not.
just lost him.
No, I can't hear him.
Funny that, isn't it?
He's been having
He's been
connection
having-
problems all day.
Yeah.
Well, I'm on a mobile connection at the moment, so...
Yeah, he's probably gonna sign back in any moment.
No worries.
He's
There
probably,
he-
There's two of him now. Look.
yeah, he would have really raced off and he's probably won't take him no time.
Yeah, smashing the keyboard.
What the fuck?
Are you going to speak, Bashy?
Bashy, we're waiting.
No, do you know what? I think there's a jam somewhere on the system for him.
Yeah, I think so.
We need a mark to kick him out and put him back in again. Anyway, what was the plans for the programme? Because I've just rambled on a bit with him. What is that where we were going with gold? What was the next thing until he comes back?
We were just going to ad-lib it.
Well, I have a question about something you spoke of a little while ago, which was the scenario with the handheld devices. What do they plan to do with that? Is that something like the situation we've heard about with HARP now?
Well, the handheld device thing is basically, I can talk about individual things that have happened, which is fine. I'll do that. But generally, the reason I mention it is because everyone has got a handheld device, a multimedia device, more or less now. And what they're doing is now marketing last year's models to countries that haven't, and setting up networks everywhere, new networks and so on. So basically, there will be a total global network. As soon as that's achieved, whoever can pump whatever opinion to whatever area, if you imagine it like liquid changing colour or something, whoever can change that area to blue or red with enough media presence is controlling popular opinion.
Okay, so it has nothing to do with detrimental frequencies being broadcasted from the tower?
Well, there are detrimental effects by any sort of airwave linkage, really. We all know that everything that's buzzing around is bad for us, but the advantage outweighs the disadvantage because they're not that bad, unless, of course, you're going to stand in front of it licking it all day long. But yeah, there's a disadvantage with them health-wise, and everybody knows that. And there's been a lot of covering up of that sort of thing. But it's still not as bad as people think it is. No, it's not about frequency. That's just an unfortunate thing. The way that technology is developed.
Okay, thank you.
I have one question in respect of the confiscation of all the gold. And
well, you can't say. Listen, I've got to hold you right there because you say confiscation. It isn't going to be confiscation. It's going to be far nicer than that. They're going to shake your hand and give you lots of paper money. What's the matter with you?
Okay.
Yeah. So the confiscation.
It was a wrong introduction to my question, which I wanted to say. It's I observed actually in America that there is one presidential candidate, this Ron Paul, which is advocating auditing the feds and going back to the gold standard. And it looks like as if this man would fit 100% into the scheme of things which are intended to be implemented very soon, is it not?
I actually come across Ron Paul in America once, and I went and had a look at him because I was so impressed. There was definitely no flies on him, shall we say. And I was impressed. But when you look into the situation, you realise that the non-publicity that he's getting is actually to mop up a group of people that won't go with the mainstream. It's actually very, very clever. He bucks and pokes at the things that certain people will not be able to ignore. I don't like his haircut, I don't like his ears, but boy is he going after the feds, I like him. So, yeah, but if you actually take the man and the situation out of the scenario and just look at the statements and the policy, look at his policy on individualism and how everybody should be accountable for themselves. On the onset, that looks fine. But what if you can't account for yourself? Well, then there has to be, he's against the welfare system in a lot of ways, or streamlining it, and healthcare, and look at his policies on healthcare and so on, and then see where that can be used and laid into the plan, and you'll see that and he's victim of it as much as anybody else because they'll pick up on things that they want to push the donation button on. So yeah, great guy. Will be ridden just like anybody else. That's the hopeless part of it. But it isn't all hopeless because if you know what's going on and you actually physically put your hand where your mouth is, you can do something about it. But there has to be enough people. So the pot's going to keep getting stirred with all sorts of racial and international shit, just to keep everybody arguing, and the food and then the oil and so on. So no one actually stands still long enough in this calm period, which is what it was for, to all shake hands and say, right. Now we're going to do it the right way because we're supposed to. We're going to get off the get more train. So they're going to hijack that and keep it going.
Yep. Just mentioning being from the United States. Yeah, I am a Ron Paul supporter, but I agree with you. I'm not much down for his healthcare policies, and he's made a couple statements that I just was not too keen on.
He's great,
but yeah.
I'm sure he's a really nice guy, and and you can see that what he's saying he means, and he does know his stuff. That's what I like about him, actually, more than anything. When he stands up on the podium with these people, he annihilates them because he does actually know what he's talking about. He's not a stuffed shirt. So you've got to give him his due. But like I said, any bit of policy there's no, it's fickle. There's no allegiance at all. Any bit of policy, the minute the rhetoric starts getting attention, that person doing that will be pushed and helped at that point. And it's amazing how people naturally feel the wave they're on, that they're shouting at that tone gets them what they want. Preachers do it, singers do it, entertainers do it. That once they make the thing that shape on stage that makes them do that, it's almost a addicted, habitual thing to try and get to that shape again. So yeah, they'll take advantage of anything, and they'll do it by deforming someone's shape by as soon as the way they will spot something in their rhetoric and start enhancing it and funding things around it to make it look more, to make it look like the door with the flowers on it. So yeah, they're all in the, no one's above it, you see. If you're actually able to throw energy around in its rawest form, copiously, you're in charge.
Music to my ears.
So, Bashi, is that you done with what you was talking about?
Well, yes, yes.
What are you laughing at? You ain't eating a carrot, are you?
No, I mean, we came from Merkel to Sarkozy to the Greek, and then from gold we went to the cosmic fluffy stuff which is outside the heliosphere. Yeah, I'm done with my questions in that respect.
The fluffy stuff.
I like the fluffy stuff.
Well,
That's good.
Well, it was a term actually coined by NASA. Fluffy stuff, you know.
Yeah, you watched that too, did you? I know, they're just absolutely grabbing me in the dark, aren't they? Do you know what's really funny about that information that's come back? Everything that they base most of their stuff on has just been thrown out the window. They've got like 2% of their stuff that was right now, and they're just standing there sort of going, well, you know.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, everything really. You see, when they found the ribbon, for example, there was big excitement. They said, "Oh, this is something which we didn't expect. We will come up with a theory to explain these things." And since they have detected it, they have not come up with a theory. And right now they can't detect it even anymore. So,
they spotted it by pot luck. Yeah, I know. Great stuff. Pioneering.
Yeah, it's really great. And I actually contacted the chief scientist in NASA, which was making the statements there, and his public relations officer. He said, yeah, they are holding back with their statements because they want to get the theory done, and then they want to have a kind of big presentation, and they want to keep a little bit ahead in respect of with their publication because they want the theory out. And of course, what I can guess from the scientific point of view is they want to get the medal of creating theory for that one and this one, and therefore they are a little bit delaying the publication of the data. But that was 2 years ago, and up to now.
Well, they've got to replace what they knew, haven't they? Because they've just had all their toys ripped away from them. So they've got to, keep quiet for a little while to replace them before they come out to play. So I should think, yeah, it's been quite a debacle for them. Very funny.
Yeah, it's a big one actually, because in the beginning they couldn't explain why it was there, and it took them so long to find something, and now it is gone, and they can't explain why it is even gone.
But going back to it, are we going to have some music, or am I battling on in something, or what?
We can do whatever we want. If you want to have some music, we could do some music.
Well, I wanted to make a cup of tea, to be honest.
Sounds great. Let's do some music. Hey, Rose, where you at? We need more music, and then we can come back and talk about some more stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, let's fix a little bit of time, so that we are not. Let's say 10 minutes break.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Is that all right with you, Rose?
Yes, that's fine. Music's on the way.
Okay, and then what we'll come back with is basically we'll go back to what Rose was saying, the question she posed earlier on, which is about frequencies and control, and where she sort of went with that with the mobile devices. And I'll give an example of companies that have done deals and what they're going to do that have already happened and why they've done them to get those mobile devices and the click vote and so on. And then I'll talk about the next stage of that, which is after we get out of this dull period, this equipment is going to be used. So we'll talk about that afterwards, which is HARP.
Cool. Very interesting.
Yeah, exciting.
Nice.
Cool. All right, let's go and have a break.